Yeah, it's great defense. A lot of great players on it. Gone against, a few of the guys over the years now. A few new faces, obviously, every year as there is in the league. New coordinator. Staley's on the staff, so there'll be, I'm sure some unscouted looks that we always see in the first few weeks, but good test for us.
Aaron, how ready are you to just turn the page and get back from this injury and play for this Jets team?
Well, part of the turn the page was last year coming back to practice, and then the other part was, OTAs and training camp and all that, so I feel ready.
Coach said you're in a great place. Are you in a great place? And what does that mean?
Yeah, well, the mental part of it is the most important part. You got to get your mind right. It's a grind. It's long season, a lot of ups and downs. You got to prepare yourself to really get off the wave. You got to find a way to be a stability point for the team, and so we're not riding the highs too much or riding the lows, because adversity's going to come at some point during the season. We got to make sure we're handling it the right way. Mike McCarthy came in years ago and said what seemed to be a wild statement at the time in 2006. He said our biggest difficulty is going to be handling success, and as the years went on, I realized how important those words are. We were 8-8 team his first year. Then the second year went to the NFC Championship. I think what he meant was you just can't ride the highs too high, and then the whole world's crashing down after a tough game. Regardless of what happens on Monday, we win. The headline's going to be, we're going to the Super Bowl. We lose, same old Jets. So I think we need to get away from some of those outside themes and trust that the program, if it's good enough week one, it's good enough the rest of the season. So we got to trust the process, be great competitors, show up, be professionals, and show out on the field, and let the chips fall where they may.
Now that it's time to execute, after watching the offense last year, how much have they evolved, especially with some of your key skill players like Reese and Garrett?
Well, I think you've seen it at practice. You guys have been part of a lot of the practices, and you've seen a lot of stuff that we do. There's a different feel to the team. When your studs are going into their third year now, you expect, a little bit of a jump, and I think we've seen that from both those guys. I've said it before, Brees, the best compliment I can give him, besides saying his name the right way, is he's a three-down back. He can do it all on first, second down. He's great in the pass protection. He's a great route runner. I think Garrett's just taken a step with another year of experience. Obviously, what he does in the field is dynamic. And he has the ability to do stuff inside the offense and outside the offense. So he's a guy you got to find in the progressions.
Aaron, how encouraged are you by the offensive line right now?
Yeah, really encouraged. I think the whole feel is different. That happens when you bring in a couple older guys like we have. There's a stability mentally, I think, that comes with that those guys have played a lot of football and bring kind of an attitude to the room. The O-line needs to be the policeman of the football team, but also needs to be the jokesters and keep things light, and I think they do a good job at that. We have the ultimate troll at center, which has always worked well over the years for us in Green Bay, but Joe has matched his personality with his play style now. He's a really good player, and he's a great person, in that core for us. And then obviously, I think we've talked about it a lot, but one of the biggest surprises, with zero disrespect, has been John Simpson. I think John has had a fantastic camp. You guys have watched him every day. The way he's handled not just our D-line, which is premier D-line, but the other teams we went against in some of these joint practices, who all have big-time, three techniques or shades who are, the tops of their positions. I thought he handled all those guys really well. You look at San Fran, obviously they got an incredible interior guy that we're going to have to block up.
After what happened last year on the opening night, might there be a moment right before the game, or perhaps early in the game, you take a pause of reflection just to consider the long journey back, and maybe after the fourth play and say, here we go, now we're smooth sailing from here?
Yeah, there might be a little smirk after the fourth one. I don't know. We'll see. I'm sure they'll catch it. But I'm in a good mind space. I've really had a year to remember in a lot of ways. Some really difficult things, but some great things as well. So there's always a perspective moment during the anthem to collect your thoughts and kind of send gratitude out to the universe for the opportunity to be standing on the field in pads. So I'll be really excited about that.
Do you have something to prove at this stage of your
Oh, I don't know. I think you always have something to prove. It just kind of changes who you're proving that to. I think the older you get.
Does this
Is
team?
there any added emotion or feeling with it being the 49ers and the history with them from growing up through the draft through the playoff battles?
Yeah, I mean, it's all different people. I've outlasted, a lot of the people over there. A lot of them are still coaching around the league. There's, it's a great staff over there. I played against John Lynch. That's how old I am. And obviously I had battles against Kyle and Sorensen now. I think I played against him too. So there's a lot of familiarity there. Obviously it's fun to go back to the Bay Area. But it really is just another game. I mean, this had happened first or second year as a starter. It's got to have a different energy when all the guys who you feel like passed on you. You have some sort of like bitterness you're holding on to. I don't have any of that anymore.
How does going up against your top-notch defense every day prepare you guys for the season?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's great for us from a confidence standpoint that we could do some good things in training camp. Obviously, you guys watched the practices again, and it wasn't a beatdown that we took last year in training camp. I felt like we had a lot of days where we were dictating kind of pace and physicality at times, which says a lot about our guys. Now we just got to go out there and be steady and execute the way we know how to. Kind of get over the waves of emotion that happen playing on the road. First game, we have rookies who are going to be playing. We have guys that haven't played in a while, so there'll be a lot of emotions we got to kind of get through the first quarter.
Is it a challenge for a team to learn how to win? We talked about this a little bit last year. And what would be your role in helping a franchise learn how to win?
Well, I've been a part of a lot of wins over the years, so I know what that feels like. It's a great feeling. But once the game's over, it's on, after the media and the film session, it's on to the next. So we have to, really have a good mindset. I think it starts with the preparation. We can't have overreactions every single week, whether it's great or whether it's bad. Consistently throughout my career, the film is never as good as it felt on the field and never as bad as it felt on the field. So we can't ride these waves of emotion or frustration or outside narratives or any of these things. We got to keep this thing very tight. We can't have any leaks or people jumping ship. We got to realize it's going to be a long season. If you don't get the ball the first week, doesn't mean you're not going to be a big part of the offense. If you don't play for the first part of the season, doesn't mean there's going to be a time where your number's called and we're going to expect you to step in there and play well.
Coach also said to ask you if you were playing with a chip, because we asked him.
Oh.
So he said ask Aaron.
I mean, how do you not? I've always kind of played with something on my shoulder. You got to, manufacture things from time to time. But, it kind of goes back to the prove it. Who do I need to prove to? Just myself at this point. So, but I have a lot of pride in my performance. So when I take the field, I expect greatness. And because I've done it before, and so that's kind of the standard I hold myself to.
What gives you the confidence that this team is ready to win? I mean, you won a lot and everything, but what gives you the confidence that this group is ready to win?
I would say the maturity in the locker room. I think that we're much better suited to handle the ups and downs of the season because of guys like Tyron Smith and guys like Morgan Moses and our young players who've gotten paid. Michael Carter just got paid. Guys who are about to get paid, the Sauce Gardners of the world, Jermaine Johnson, Reese, and Garrett. And then, the consistency from guys like the Williams brothers and C.J. Mosley. It's more than just the on-field play, which is very, very important, but it's how do we handle a long season? How do we stick together in the tough moments? How do we get the right messaging out to the guys? How are we holding guys accountable? How are we making this a player-led team? We have the ability to because there's just more veterans in key spots I think this year, and it's a credit to Joe and Robert and their staff for bringing the right kind of guys.
Sometimes the football universe works in mysterious ways. You're going to see Leonard Floyd again.
Yeah, I know.
Might you have something funny to say to him before, or like some comments during the game?
I've always enjoyed some side conversation with Leonard over the years. He's a great player. Played against him on a couple different teams now. I hope he doesn't in any way feel responsible for that at all. He's a stand-up guy. I've worked out with him in the off seasons. I teased him because a few years ago when he was at the Rams, I got him to buy on a pump fake and kind of snuck in the end zone, which never happened again. The next time we ran that, I pump faked. He ran right in my chest. So he's a great player. Obviously, he's played at a high level for a long time, and I'll enjoy dapping them up for the game.
The goal is still New Orleans.
Of course.